On March 30th, 2025, President Donald Trump gave an interview to NBC News that sent shockwaves through the American political landscape. During the interview, Trump did something unexpected. He clearly stated for the first time that pursuing a third presidential term was not a joke.
Called me this morning. We discussed a range of topics, including the possibility of him serving a third term. He's joked about it.
I've raised a lot of money for the next race that I assume I can't use for myself, but I'm not 100% sure.
But these were his most extensive comments yet. He told me he's not joking. He said there are methods by which you could do it, but he said it's far too early to think about it. He said he's focused on his current job. At the same time, I did press him on those methods. There's been some discussion about the possibility of Vice President J.D. Vance running perhaps at the top of the ticket with President Trump running in the number 2 slot and then swapping if they were to win. President Trump telling me that is a method. He said there are other methods. I asked if he could give me details, and he said flatly no. Now, President Trump's allies have said that they are seriously looking at this.
We're working on there. We're not prepared to talk about it publicly, but in a couple of months, I think we will be.
Here's what you need to know, though. It is incredibly complicated to change the Constitution. Serving a third term is prohibited by the Constitution. So this is something that would be far out of reach by any measure. And again, President Trump insisting for right now, he's focused on his current job.
Roadblock. 22nd Amendment? Soon after the interview, debate flared around the 22nd Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. This provision explicitly states that no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice, whether those terms are consecutive or not. Trump has already served one full term, from 2017 to 2021, as the 45th president. Now, beginning his second term on January 20th, 2025, as the 47th president, he's hitting the constitutional limit. So, where did the 22nd Amendment come from? Could it ever be repealed under Trump? To answer that, we need to look back to a pivotal moment in U.S. history and a unique president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Before Roosevelt, America in the Roaring Twenties. Let's rewind to the 1920s, known as the Roaring Twenties, a time of post-World War. Prosperity, industrial boom, and social change. The war had ended in 1918, and Americans turned to making money. Stocks soared. People borrowed heavily to invest in the markets, believing the good times would never end. But not everyone benefited. Industrialization hurt rural areas. Farmers who had once thrived during wartime demand saw crop prices fall drastically. The wealth gap widened, with urban elites thriving while rural and working-class Americans struggled. President Herbert Hoover, a staunch believer in free market capitalism, resisted regulation. He thought infrastructure investment and higher taxes would fix things, but it didn't. To many, he seemed indifferent to the suffering. The result? A devastating economic crash. The stock market collapsed, over 5,500 banks failed, and more than 86,000 businesses went bankrupt. Unemployment reached a staggering 17 million. The country was in despair. It was in this climate that a reformist leader emerged, Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt's first term, the New Deal. In 1932, Roosevelt ran for president on a message of hope and reform. He won in a landslide, defeating Hoover with 472 electoral votes to 59. In his inaugural address, he inspired the nation with the famous words, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Roosevelt immediately launched the New Deal, a sweeping economic plan centered on the 3 R's: relief, recovery, and reform. He passed the National Industrial Recovery Act, restructured failing banks to restore public trust, and helped struggling farmers by paying them to reduce crop production. Controversial, but effective in raising prices. He also laid the foundations of America's modern welfare state, introducing unemployment insurance and Social Security. Though criticized today for fostering dependency, at the time these programs helped lift the U.S. out of the Great Depression. Unemployment fell, the economy rebounded, and in 1936, Roosevelt easily won re-election. Roosevelt's second term and the approach of war. Roosevelt's second term stretched from 1937 to 1940. But in 1939, a storm erupted. World War II began. Nazi Germany swept across Europe. Even France, with its mighty army, collapsed in just over a month. Only Britain, protected by the English Channel, remained defiant. As America watched nervously, 1940 arrived, an election year. Traditionally, no U.S. president had ever sought a third term. Out of respect for George Washington, who stepped down voluntarily after two, but these were extraordinary times. With war looming, many Americans believed it was too dangerous to change leaders. Public pressure mounted, and Roosevelt, breaking with precedent, decided to run again, and won. He became the first U.S. president to serve 3 terms. Roosevelt's 4th term and death in office. In 1944, with the U.S. deeply involved in World War II, Americans once again turned to Roosevelt. He was re-elected for a 4th term, becoming the only U.S. president ever elected 4 times. But he would not live to see the war's end. On April 12, 1945, Roosevelt died of a cerebral hemorrhage. Vice President Harry S. Truman was sworn in, and later oversaw the final victories against Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. The 22nd Amendment is born. Roosevelt's unprecedented for terms lead. Directly to the passage of the 22nd Amendment in 1951. The amendment limited presidents to 2 terms, forever closing the door Roosevelt had opened. Could Trump break that limit? So, could Trump really pursue a 3rd term like Roosevelt? To do so, the 22nd Amendment would have to be repealed, an incredibly difficult process requiring approval by 2/3 of both houses of Congress, ratification by 38 of the 50 U.S. states. That's a high bar. Yet as of 2024, Trump had strong support in 31 red states, solid Republican territory, and had won an additional 7 swing states. That adds up to exactly 38. If public sentiment holds and Republican control continues, the path, while narrow, is not impossible. Are the conditions similar to Roosevelt's time? Let's examine. Economic pressure. Like the Great Depression era, America today is grappling with serious fiscal challenges. Trump aims to reduce massive federal spending, balance trade through tariffs, and stimulate the economy with tax cuts. If he succeeds, Americans may reward him by supporting deeper political changes, even constitutional amendments. 2. National security tensions. Trump's administration has declared the southern border a national emergency. Immigration enforcement has intensified. Trump's DHS has even rebranded the CBP's border app to CBP Home, allowing migrants to self-deport. Additionally, daily fines of $1,000 are being levied on illegal overstayers. Defense spending is also skyrocketing. Trump's new defense secretary has announced plans for a $1 trillion military budget, up from $700 to $800 billion. These moves suggest a country on the edge of conflict. Is the U.S. preparing for war? From Taiwan tensions to ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza, the global climate is unstable. The mood in America resembles that of the late 1930s, anxious, divided, and unsure. This could lead some citizens to believe, once again, that continuity of leadership is more important than tradition. One major difference: the Constitution. Roosevelt had no legal barrier to a 3rd term. Trump does. The 22nd Amendment is the final gatekeeper. Unless it's repealed, no amount of popularity or wartime urgency will allow Trump a 3rd term. But if the political winds shift enough, if the economy recovers, if national security threats mount, and if Trump continues to hold influence over key states, then what once seemed impossible may become a legitimate political movement. The question is no longer, can Trump do it? It may soon be, will America let him?
then, that would have been back in October last year, and way back before that, is that I said that Donald Trump would have, or go for, certainly, a third term in office. Now, I said this before he was elected as well, if you check back, guys. And so this is where there's now panic, because everybody, when I made that post, absolutely tore me to pieces. They say, there's absolutely, you're such a fool, Craig, that you haven't read American rules and law. You can't have this. There's never been the case. There's never been a third term. Nobody can have a third term. It's written into our constitution. It's the bedrock of American legal American politics, or whatever you want to call it. It's the bedrock of everything. You can't have that. Well, now everybody's in panic, because already this week and recently, and a little bit before, with that guy Bannon, who was talking about it too, I remember, who was seen as a bit of an extremist. But, you know, are we going to get that? When Trump was asked about it, his attitude was, oh, it's far too soon to say something about that. But he didn't rule it out, did he? So I feel that there is going to be a third term of Trump. And
subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Share it, because some stories are meant to be discovered together. And stay curious. I'll see you in the next chapter.